Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura, and this is day 4 of our cruise on board P&O's Arvia. We are sailing on a 7-night Caribbean cruise, and today we are in Martinique.
This morning I had an appointment for 9 a.m. for the medical centre to go and see the doctor there. Pretty confident that it's tonsillitis. Lizzie has performed a diagnosis and I have had a look in the mirror and can see that it probably is. So I headed straight down there, and I did have to wait for a little while because a medical emergency came in, which, you know, obviously does take precedent over my tonsillitis. And yes, I had to wait a little while. I was seated in a little waiting room. There was a questionnaire that I had to complete initially about medical history and things like that, because obviously they don't have access to what your normal doctor would have access to. After I'd completed the questionnaire and handed that in, I waited a little while, and then the nurse came through to collect me. She took me into sort of a little consultation room, really, and did just a quick check over and basically said she agreed, but I had to see the doctor to get an official diagnosis and to be prescribed some antibiotics. They were a bit concerned at this point that my heart rate was quite high. The doctor on duty then came into the room. She checked my heart rate. Actually, really interestingly, she just asked me what my heart rate said on my Apple Watch, which I was like, well, that's very technical, not. So she got me to tell her what my heart rate was showing on there, which she was quite concerned about, but also I did have quite a high temperature. So she was pretty confident that the reason I had a high heart rate was because my temperature was high. She checked my throat and confirmed it was indeed tonsillitis and did prescribe me some antibiotics, which was great. Then she actually asked that I stayed in the medical centre for about 20 minutes. She suggested it would take, while I took a couple of paracetamols to see if it would bring my temperature down and then calm my heart rate.
Meanwhile, I was sat in the cabin, presuming that she wouldn't be very long and that we would be able to head off to breakfast soon. How wrong I was.
I did not expect what happened next to happen next, but I found myself hooked up to a serious looking heart monitor. And I was then, moved into one of the side room type rooms with a proper hospital bed, and I was left in there for, it probably took almost 2 hours by the time I'd finished in the medical centre, which was a lot longer than we were expecting, but it did take a bit more time than we thought for my heart rate to slow down.
I kept on going to leave the cabin because I thought, well, I was hungry basically, and I thought I'd just go and grab something from the buffet while I was waiting. But every time I suggested that, Laura thought she'd be back in a minute. And then finally, she did text to say that she was on her way back to the cabin.
The trip to the medical centre cost the princely sum of £98 in total. This, the majority of the cost was actually the doctor's appointment. That was around £75 to actually see the doctor. So if you have something minor and you won't need anything prescribing, it's just sort of like bandaging or something like that, and you go and see the nurse, it is much, much cheaper to go to the medical centre. But the minute you see the doctor, that price does shoot up.
Laura, however, is most horrified about the fact that it cost her 4p for some paracetamol because she actually had some in a bag at the time.
I did. Could have took my own.
But to be honest, 4p is an absolute bargain out of £98. When she arrived back at the cabin, we were both quite thirsty for a drink as well by now. We'd only both had water. So we headed to Vista's to go and get ourselves a drink.
We sat in Vista's for a little while, and then we popped up to the buffet for lunch. We missed breakfast at this point. The lunch buffet today was really good. There was lots of different things there that we wanted to try. There were fajitas available. I had a real urge for a sausage roll, and conveniently there were some. So it was a good buffet this lunchtime.
We weren't planning to get off the ship until a bit later on today anyway, because it is Mardi Gras Carnival in Martinique today, and it doesn't start till about 4 p.m. So we were planning on getting off later. So Laura headed back to the cabin for a nap, and I decided to go for a walk around the promenade deck, and I did a couple of laps of it. And then I went and sat in the Keel and Cow and had a soft drink in there.
We got off the ship just after 2 o'clock and just headed really to have an explore around Martinique. To start with, we walked along sort of the seafront area, and there'd been lots of stalls set up ready for the carnival. So there were various different things on sale along there.
It was already full of energy when we got off the ship. There were lots of people all wearing red and black, which were the colours for Carnival. And there was music already playing everywhere, people enjoying the sunshine on the streets. We wandered up to the areas where the shops were. They were shut, which we knew would happen. We did think we might find a souvenir shop that was open, but unfortunately not. So we didn't get a fridge magnet to add to our collection, which just means we're going to have to go back.
We got as far as the church in Martinique and spent a little bit of time, took a few photos around there and had a little wander around that area. And then we headed back down to the main street where everything was happening.
We were trying to find ourselves a position in the shade because it was very hot, and we found what we thought was a perfect position, stood with people who lived in Martinique and people who were on the ship as well.
And we stood there for quite some time. And we stood there for so long that actually some of the people surrounding us changed. Different people ended up there. A few people, there were two ladies from Arvia who gave up and headed back to the ship.
They said they'd had too much rum already.
But we were determined to see some of the festivities, so we stuck it out a bit longer than that.
On occasions, there were cars going past us, which had people sitting on the roofs and music playing. We saw a float go down at one point, and then we saw all of a sudden we could hear music coming, and everybody crossed into the middle of the road so they could see better. And there was a big group of people who were singing, playing drums and chanting. It was quite a spectacle to see.
After about an hour of standing in that spot, we were just getting a bit too hot, to be honest, so couldn't stand there any longer. We headed back in the direction of the ship, and we did see some other groups of people that were raring to go, I suppose, for the festivities.
The group by the ship had drums, and they were singing, and they were blowing into the conch shells as well, which we thought was great fun to watch and see. And then we were just about to head across the boardwalk to get back onto the ship, and then we heard another group. So we just walked down to see another group, which were, again, lots of music, lots of singing, and it just looked like everybody was going to have the most amazing night.
Having visited Martinique, if we were to visit again, we think we would probably book a trip to go a little further afield, because we know part of this was due to the festivities, meaning that the shops were shut, but there wasn't a massive amount in that port area to see and do.
When we got back on board, we were quite desperate for a soft drink. So we headed up to the Skydome and we grabbed, I think I had a Pepsi Max, you had a Diet Coke. And then we felt a bit peckish because, to be honest, we'd only had breakfast. It might have been a late breakfast called lunch. But we just grabbed a couple of slices of pizza each just to tie us over until dinner.
Then we headed out onto the prom deck. On deck 8, there's a lot of the deck is covered by high-rise glass, so you don't get great views. It's not brilliant for taking photos, but there is a curved part of deck that if you walk onto that part, it is a bit lower. So it's a great place to stand, and we had some brilliant views of the sunset as we were sailing away.
We then grabbed a drink from Amber Lounge to take back with us to the cabin for while we got ready. Tonight, we are supposed to be going to Limelight, but we feel like it's a bit of a waste because Laura doesn't feel good. So we've popped to reception and asked if there's any chance of changing it, which they have done without any problem at all. They've emailed Limelight and they have sent us a message back to say that we can go tomorrow night instead. We'd decided that we wanted to go to 6th Street Diner for dinner tonight. However, every time we went on the My Holiday page, it kept on saying the queue was full. So we thought we'll head to Brody's, we'll grab ourselves a drink in there and we'll see what happens.
While we were sitting in Brody's, the status of the queue for 6th Street Diner didn't change. So in the end, we thought we'd just pop down and see what was going on and if we might have a chance of getting a table in there. We approached the desk and spoke to the lady there, and we were actually seated straight away. There was no hassle at all. So it is definitely worth popping down to the restaurants themselves and asking if you can't join a queue on My Holiday, because you never know.
One of the main reasons we were eating here tonight is because I really wanted my new favourite cocktail, Cotton Candy Cosmo, and it was as delicious as before. For my starter, I ordered the monkey bread, which, to be honest, I didn't really have a clue what it was going to be, but it was really, really nice. And then I had the Philly steak sandwich for my main, which I enjoyed.
I had no idea what came over me when I placed my order, but I went a bit rogue and chose things that I'm not sure I would like anyway, so I don't know why I ordered them. But for my starter, I had what was described as a southern fried chicken donut, and I did not expect to receive a donut dipped in hot sauce.
I thought there would be a donut on the plate.
It was disgusting, to be honest, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Then for the main, I ordered a crab cake, which was on a bed of sauce that I didn't like, and the crab cake itself was very, very salty. I do normally quite like seafood, but I didn't enjoy this either. I'm not sure if it's just because I wasn't feeling 100%, but I wasn't really into that dinner. But I did order for dessert the s'mores dessert that's available.
Due to my amazing recommendation, because I'd seen everyone else having it and knew that she would really like it.
I was just reluctant to order it because I knew that I didn't have a massive appetite and I didn't want to waste it. I did manage to eat about half of it and it was so nice. So it was worth the bad starter and main just to have that dessert.
After that, we headed up to the Skydome because Schhh was on. Now, it was advertised from being on from 9 o'clock till midnight, and we had actually seen them rehearsing earlier in the day when we were in the Skydome, and we were really, really impressed with the choreography we'd seen and the dancers themselves with the effort and energy they were putting into it, so we were looking forward to it. We missed the start of it, so we're not sure what happened for about probably the first 45 minutes of it. And when we got into the dome, it was pretty quiet in there.
When we first arrived, there were just a few dancers standing around the edge of the pool dancing. And there wasn't, I suppose, much of an atmosphere really in the Skydome. Everybody was just sat on chairs. Lots of people were getting up and leaving. I'm not sure that people really knew what they were supposed to do, whether they were supposed to be joining in with the dancing or just sitting and watching. But it's quite a long event, quite a long show, and lots of people were coming and going, I suppose, as it went on.
We saw one of the larger dance acts that actually we'd seen bits of earlier on as well when we'd been in the Skydome. The dancers are very, very talented, and it was a shame that there weren't more people in there to appreciate their skills, to be honest. At around 11ish, we decided to do something that we wouldn't normally do on a cruise. Because Laura wasn't really feeling too good, she wasn't up for the rest of the night out, and the ship seemed pretty quiet. So we headed back to the cabin and we put a film on.
We were both delighted that this film was available, and so we watched Barbie. We didn't manage to watch the whole film in this one night, but we made a good start and we really enjoyed what we did watch.
Overall, today has been a fun day. Getting to see Carnival in Martinique was a fantastic experience. We feel like we've been very lucky because last year we sailed on board Azora and we saw Carnival in Tenerife, which you can see bits of in our Azora review. And even if Laura didn't enjoy her meal, I enjoyed my meal in Sixth Street Diner. Tomorrow we are in St. Lucia, which is the island that we are probably most excited about going to visit. And we have also got Limelight tomorrow night, which again, we can't wait for.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like and pop any questions you've got in the comments down below. Please also make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on social media. We're Sisters on the Seas.